Hi, Alicia. Okay, I'm going to try to encapsulate a bunch of things all at once, and I hope I can do this. So, Passover is celebrated for 8 days since it's diaspora, but it's really a 7-day festival that commemorates um, being relieved of slavery in Egypt. And it retells the whole story of Exodus, basically. And it was developed as a practice into what's referred to as the Seder many years after, obviously, as a way from some rabbis who said that they wanted to give that sense of liberation to all the Jews. So they created this basically like, I don't know how to describe it. It's this cathartic experience of feeling like you're going through the whole story because you kind of enact the whole thing out. Um, kind of like Rocky Horror. um, yeah, and you can actually go in costume if you want, and you will get drunk because that's encouraged. Okay, so all of the foods that are eaten have symbolic meaning, and they all harken back to part of the story or something that a rabbi wants to teach them about what's gone on in the story. And I actually went into my garage and got out my Seder plate. Okay, so there are 6 foods traditionally that you have to have. And this is an Armenian one, and I'm going to kind of talk about that later. But uh, my favorite one, and I'll tell you what it is and the symbology behind it, has to do with it's supposed to represent the mortar that sat between the bricks of the pyramids that were erected. So we always made it out of walnuts and then wine or grape juice and cinnamon, and it's chopped and it's kind of like a chutney, and it's really delicious. Um, but the biggest symbol is really the matzah, which is, the unleavened bread. And there are so many ways that matzah is used, but the biggest expression is that it's lifted up, and there's actually a part of the ceremony where when you lift it up and you say, "This is the bread of affliction." So I'm sure that some of my Christian friends will have some things to say about that because it's kind of an aha moment for sure. But just to sort of give crosswires of how things sort of get blended together, there was actually a Feast of Unleavened Bread that happened way before the Jews ever did all this stuff that was in Egypt. And when I was little, King Tut came around to Chicago, and I was so into Egyptology, like crazy mad into it. And I always thought it was so strange. I mean, the Egyptians who, like, they would mark down everything to the finest grain of rice. um, but I actually had an Egyptian Muslim friend who said, well, why would they want to mark down about something that they had failed at or something? I don't know. But the main thing is supposedly, as far as the rabbis say, that you're supposed to be relieving yourself of your own mental slavery, like you're supposed to be liberating yourself somehow, or asking to be liberated from the ways in which people uh, just put constraints around themselves that don't allow them to be loving. And a lot of what the songs are, and there's tons of songs, and there's lots of food that's brought in and out all night. Um, they're all about how much God did for us that we can't even believe, and that if God had only done even just this little bit, it would have been enough for us. But that to have gotten so much more and so much more and so much more, we just are beyond grateful. All right. So there's tons of songs, and sorry, I got distracted a second. Um, the matzah, at one point, there's a portion that's taken out and it's kind of hidden, and then the youngest has to find it, or the children really have to find it, and people can't leave until it's done. And I've had nights where it's gone way on into the night. I actually even got like $100 for one once. The youngest child there is meant to ask what's called the 4 questions, and they sing it in Hebrew and English together. I've done it all kinds of different ways, and in my family I was the only and the youngest until I yeah, moved to another family. And then my brother was the youngest, but I still used to end up singing it probably just because he would get too embarrassed sometimes. Um, and they're all about different ways that sons or children interact with their parents, either considering themselves to be Jews and part of this whole thing or not. There's a lot of oral tradition that comes up during it, which is always my favorite, especially the part where during the parting of the Red Sea, Moses had said for everybody to go forth, but the water was still there, and it was recounted that a member of the tribe of Judah came forth and plunged right ahead and said, "We must go." And I don't know if he said we must go, but I know he forged ahead, or she, or whomever, and that the water, it was up to their nose, or his nose, before it split, and then everyone came through. And then, of course, it splits for the Jews and then crashes down around the Egyptians. Okay, so then after that, the men rejoiced, but Miriam went up, and I've told all that before, because she wouldn't rejoice even at the death of her oppressors. So let's see. There are 4 cups of wine that are set out that you have to drink a minimum of. And there is a place that's set for the prophet Elijah. We pour a cup of wine for him. There's a portion during the ceremony where you actually open the door, and anyone who passes by, you invite in. Everyone is always invited to that table. There are a couple of things that people do, like, to show that. One is that they'll invite a priest to express that there's no more enmity. Um, let's see, what's another one? I'm trying to think. Oh, during the 90s, there was a very Hasidic Orthodox rabbi who was very upset about female rabbis. And he made some sort of a statement, something like, "Well, that makes about as much sense as putting an orange on a Seder plate." And I'm sure you saw there was no spot there for an orange. There's like a lamb shank and bitter herbs and parsley and an egg. And yeah. So he said that because as if it doesn't make sense. It doesn't have a place there, right? So all the Reform and Reconstructionists and even conservative who had female rabbis, like close to conservative, not totally, yeah, they started putting oranges there just to show their solidarity. Later on in the 90s, there was another innovation, which had to do with the LGBT community. Pomegranates were put on for lesbian, and then bananas for gay and transgendered. So, and I've had those all on my plate. What else can I tell you? It's just a really fun night. If you ever get invited to go to one, it's a lot of fun. And you really are, like, everybody's there is invited. You won't know the songs, but it's so much fun. It's kind of like you don't care, and the more you drink, the happier you are. And like all the plagues, they talk about the plagues, and they take a drop of wine out of your cup for each one that shows that you have less joy. There's a lamb shank, which is roasted, and that's to commemorate the blood that was put on the doorposts of the Jews so that the angel of death would fly over, which is how the name of it even got started, Passover. What else is there? I'm trying to remember. I hope I've remembered it all. Okay, about my little Seder plate. It's Armenian, but there's kind of this Armenian Spanish connection thing, and I don't really know how to talk about that, but the Jews that are in Spain are Sephardic, and when I first met my husband, we thought that he might have been because he's got like the deep dark tones of skin, but then we kind of realized that that was me because of the Spanish connection, which I'm embarrassed to say I never told you so. I don't know why that matters, but anyways. And there are certain things that Sephardim and Ashkenazi don't do. Now, I'm both, but so I don't know what would happen to me. But supposedly, if ever, there are different laws as far as like what they eat during the Passover. There's a special different kind of kosher that's just for Passover. Actually, there's a portion of time before this where you actually go through the house and take out all of the leavened crumbs and you burn them, or sell the rest of it to your rabbi and then they sell it back, or this whole thing. But there are certain foods that the Sephardim do and do not have that other people, the Ashkenazi, don't. Um, and they have actually a couple different things. Um, the other big distinction between Sephardim and Ashkenazi is that Sephardim are actually still allowed to have more than one wife. Um, so I could do that, but my husband couldn't. Isn't that odd? In other words, I could be in a marriage with, if I went by all that, where there was more than one wife. Anyway, I don't think that'll ever happen, so it doesn't really matter. But regardless, if you ever get invited to go, 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 go. It's a lot of fun. And I think my son is waking up. I hope I said everything. It's always on the full moon. Basically, you're supposed to be acting as if you are leaving in a hurry, like how it was when you were getting out. And so you treat everything that's going on in your house as if you were, it's kind of like camping, but not exactly. I don't know how to explain it any better than that. So, yeah, go if you get the chance. And, I hope I said everything right. I don't know if I remembered everything. All right. Best to you. Take care.